Okay, think about this sound. That soft, almost metallic click from a gauntlet.
Hmm.
It wasn't some huge explosion, or a giant beam shooting into the sky.
Right.
But that one sound, right at the climax of Avengers, Endgame, it just echoed everywhere.
It really did. A defining moment.
It wrapped up, what, a 22-film story, easily one of the biggest, most ambitious experiments in movie history, and definitely one of the most successful financially. We all call it the snap, right? But it felt like more than just a movie ending. It was almost this global cathartic thing, a real full stop on a decade of pop culture. I mean, Endgame by itself, nearly $2.8 billion.
Staggering numbers.
But here's the interesting thing, the paradox, maybe. How did Marvel's Phase 3, those 11 movies from Civil War through Spider-Man, Far From Home, get that successful?
Yeah.
You hear these criticisms, right? Esteemed filmmakers like Martin Scorsese famously calling the MCU stuff theme parks, not real cinema.
Right, that caused quite a stir.
Yet, Phase 3 clearly went beyond just big action scenes. It got into some pretty complex ideas, even kind of critiqued its own superhero formula sometimes. So that's what we want to do today, really dive deep into how they pulled that off.
And that's the core of it, I think. It wasn't just about getting bigger. That success was the payoff for what you could call cinematic television.
Cinematic television. Explain that.
Yeah, like a decade-long experiment in serialized storytelling, but for the cinema screen. It focused intensely on characters, on building these long arcs.
Okay.
And that approach, it built this huge audience investment. And frankly, it made the audience more narratively sophisticated.
Yeah.
They were tracking details across films. So this deep dive, what we'll find is that Phase 3's real power came from its internal critique. It was deconstructing its own heroes, its own tropes.
While still being massive blockbusters.
Exactly. Using that spectacle as a way to deliver mature, sometimes really subversive themes. It was like a modern mythology, but self-aware.
Okay, let's unpack this then. How did they even start to build this cinematic monument? The whole phases idea from Marvel.
Yeah.
At first, it kind of felt like just marketing, right?
A little bit, yeah. Easy labels.
But it was way more than that. It was a genuine blueprint for a whole new way of making movies, telling stories across films. So if Phase 1 was about, getting the band together, Iron Man, Cap, Thor.
The assembly.
And Phase 2 dealt with the fallout, started expanding the universe, brought in some unexpected heroes.
Guardians, Ant-Man.
Yeah, then Phase 3 was basically designed from the start as the big one, the grand operatic climax to everything that came before.
And what's fascinating there, structurally, is how they built that climax around the slow reveal of the 6 Infinity Stones.
Ah, the stones. Right.
These weren't just random plot devices, these cosmic MacGuffins. They became the ultimate MacGuffin, the thing everyone was after, driving the entire saga.
Right.
The way they seeded them, one by one, starting way back in Phase 1, the Tesseract in Captain America, the Aether in Thor 2, the Orb in Guardians, it created this incredible cosmic anticipation.
So by the time Phase 3 rolls around.
Exactly. By then, audiences weren't just watching passively. They were actively looking for the time stone, the soul stone. It turned watching movies into joining a giant puzzle.
Yeah. Marvel totally trained us. They took the post-credit scene, which was kind of niche.
A fun little bonus, maybe.
And made it standard practice, industry standard. It wasn't just an extra clip. It turned watching into, detective work.
Active participation.
And their use of cliffhangers. That's classic serialized storytelling, right? It goes way back. But they made it central to their model. It meant the conversation about the MCU just never stopped.
Yeah.
So what some critics called Marvel homework.
Which always felt a bit dismissive.
Right. It was actually the key. It was the lifeblood of our investment, creating this global community of decoders and theorists.
And beyond just the story, this structure, this architecture, it created a brilliant economic model, too.
How so?
Well, Hollywood is famously risk-averse, right? Especially with huge budgets. The shared universe acted like a narrative portfolio.
Like in finance. Diversification.
Exactly. It spread the risk.
Oh.
A single film underperforming wasn't catastrophic because it was part of this larger ongoing thing people were invested in.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about Doctor Strange in 2016. Introducing a character like that, pretty obscure for the mainstream, kind of weird concepts.
Magic, mysticism.
Yeah, that could have been a huge gamble. But because it was clearly part of the bigger Infinity Saga and, crucially, introduced the Time Stone.
Ah, Another piece of the puzzle.
Right. It wasn't just a standalone fantasy film. It felt necessary. Audiences needed to see it to keep up with the main story. So Marvel could incubate new IP, new characters under the umbrella of the established brand.
That's smart, really smart.
It was a creative and commercial masterstroke. Lots of studios tried to copy it, but mostly failed because they missed that patient buildup.
Which brings us nicely to a really key strategic move in Phase 3. Kevin Feige loosening the creative reins a bit.
That was crucial.
Instead of just sticking to one formula, they started bringing in directors with really distinct voices, right? Empowering auteurs.
Absolutely.
And that led to this incredible variety across the 11 films, different genres, different themes. It turned the MCU into this vibrant, almost like unpredictable ecosystem.
It's pretty amazing when you lay it out. Let's maybe walk through some key examples, film by film.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the Russo brothers. They kicked off Phase 3 with Captain America, Civil War in 2016.
Which felt very different.
Totally.
Yeah.
They deliberately moved away from just big spectacle. It felt more like a 1970s political thriller full of paranoia.
With the Sokovia Accords as the trigger.
Exactly. That became the flashpoint for this really complex debate. Security versus liberty.
Yeah.
Accountability versus autonomy. Is it good versus evil? No, it's like good versus right.
And the film doesn't really pick a side, does it?
Not really. It gives both Tony Stark, driven by guilt, wanting oversight, and Steve Rogers, principled, wary of authority, really strong, valid arguments.
And talk about the character arcs there, especially Steve's. It's interesting.
Yeah, Steve has what you might call a flat arc. He doesn't really change fundamentally. His conviction is so strong he changes the world around him.
Whereas
Tony's arc is all about painful growth, right? Driven by his guilt over Ultron, the Russo's whole visual style, the gritty feel, Henry Jackman's score. It all felt very serious, almost tragic.
Okay, so then completely different. You get Scott Derrickson with Doctor Strange.
Yeah, 2016 again.
Yeah.
He brings in magic, but not like fantasy magic. It's treated almost like reinterpreted physics.
The visuals were insane.
Breathtaking.
Yeah.
Inspired by Steve Ditko's comic art, turning cities into these impossible MC Escher puzzles. But the core of it was Stephen Strange's journey from pure ego to humility.
Learning it's not about you.
Exactly. Confronting time, death, ethical compromises. Now, it did tap into that psychedelic vibe, but it also got fair criticism for Orientalist tropes and the Tilda Swinton casting. That's part of its story, too.
Right, important context. And the music.
Michael Giacchino's score was brilliant. Mix those mystical sitar sounds with psychedelic rock riffs. Really unique.
Then talk about a contrast. John Watts' Spider-Man. Homecoming in 2017. Back down to earth.
Way down to earth. A Queens high school, basically.
It felt like a modern John Hughes movie, didn't it? But with webs.
Totally. Peter Parker's big conflict isn't saving the universe. It's juggling homework, the prom, and being Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That tension between normal teen life and this huge responsibility.
From the villain, Vulture, Adrian Toomes, he was different too.
So effective because he was so grounded. Michael Keaton was amazing. He's this working class guy, a salvage operator whose business gets wiped out by Tony Stark's damage control initiative.
So there's a bit of a social critique there.
Subtle, but yeah. He's presented as a direct consequence of the big guys, the superheroes, and their messes. Giacchino's score here. Totally different. Playful, energetic, capturing that youthful vibe.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because Phase 3 also went way out there into cosmic comedy and pushed boundaries even further.
Oh, absolutely. James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, also 2017. On the surface, it's this wild, colorful space opera.
Yeah.
But underneath, it's a really personal, emotional film about family. Specifically, unconventional family units.
Chosen family versus biological family?
Exactly. It contrasts the messy, hard-won love of the Guardians, their chosen family, with the poison of toxic biological ties. Like Peter Quill's massive daddy issues with Ego, this literal planet, versus Yondu, the flawed father figure who actually loved him.
And Gamora and Nebula's relationship, too.
Yeah, that intense sibling rivalry rooted in trauma. Even Rocket and Yondu bonding over their shared pain. It's all about finding family. And the awesome mix all in two. Still crucial. Using songs like Brandy as these perfect, poignant metaphors.
Then, Thor, Ragnarok. Still 2017. That felt like a complete reset.
Maybe the most subversive film of the whole phase, honestly. Taika Waititi comes in.
Who has Maori heritage, right? That feels relevant.
Very relevant. He uses his unique comedic style, that sort of dry, awkward comedy of the mundane, and this incredible Jack Kirby-inspired visual explosion to actually launch a pretty scathing critique of colonialism.
Whoa, okay. In a Thor movie.
How? Kate Blanchett, Odin's firstborn. She's not just a power-mad villain. She is Asgard's violent imperial past, the history they literally whitewashed, painted over.
Where do you think all this gold came from?
Exactly. She peels back the murals to reveal scenes of conquest. So Thor's journey isn't just about stopping her. It's about him reckoning with his own people's history, their sins, and that leads to Asgard as a people, not a place. That line is revolutionary. It means they have to destroy the physical place, the seat of that imperial power, to survive and move forward. It's a radical post-colonial statement.
And he does all that while being hilarious and visually stunning.
With Mark Mothersbaugh's incredible 80s synth score. It's just brilliant filmmaking.
Okay, so moving towards the finale. The last two standalone films before the big two-parter really seem to focus on identity and history in new ways.
Absolutely. Ryan Coogler's Black Panther in 2018.
Yeah.
More than a movie, right? A global cultural moment.
Definitely.
It used Afrofuturism, that aesthetic imagining uncolonized African futures, to create Wakanda. A powerful counter-narrative to centuries of how Africa's been portrayed.
And the conflict is so rich.
Incredibly sophisticated. It's T'Challa's isolationism versus Killmonger's revolutionary anger. Tradition versus progress. What does Wakanda owe the world?
Killmonger is such a great antagonist. You almost root for him, or at least understand him.
Arguably the MCU's best villain, because he's not just evil. He's a product of the system T'Challa inherits, a product of Wakanda's choices. He embodies the pain of the African diaspora. It's a profound debate happening within a superhero movie.
And Ludwig Göransson's score won an Oscar.
Rightfully so. Fusing traditional African instruments with orchestra and hip-hop. Just groundbreaking.
And finally, Captain Marvel in 2019. Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck directing.
A 90s prequel, setting up Nick Fury's big idea, the Avengers Initiative. But more than that, it was a really potent feminist story.
How so?
It's about memory, identity, trauma, told through the lens of psychological manipulation, basically gaslighting. Carol Danvers has to reclaim her past, her power, from this manipulative system, personified by her Kree mentor telling her to control her emotions.
Her emotions are seen as a weakness.
Right, and her journey is about realizing they're actually her strength, breaking free. Pinar Toprak did the score, the first woman to score an MCU film blending 90s synth with this soaring orchestral theme for Carol.
Okay. So all of that sets the stage for the absolute culmination, Avengers.
Yeah.
Infinity War and Avengers, Endgame. This has to be one of the boldest moves in blockbuster history, right? A two-part philosophical epic.
It really is. Infinity War is fascinating because structurally, Thanos is kind of the protagonist.
Yeah, you follow his quest.
His grim quest for the stones, driven by his Malthusian philosophy, this idea that the universe is overpopulated and needs balancing. Wiping out half of all life is, in his mind, a necessary evil.
And the theme of sacrifice is huge.
Central. It sets up this stark moral divide. The heroes refuse to sacrifice one life to save others. Cap says, we don't trade lives. That's their code, their humanity.
And that's why they fail, initially.
Exactly. Their love, their unwillingness to make those cold, calculated choices prevents them from stopping him.
Whereas Thanos believes he's making the ultimate sacrifice.
He genuinely does. He succeeds precisely because he's willing to do the unthinkable, kill Gamora, the person he loves most, for the Soul Stone. His victory is the brutal win of utilitarian logic. The ends justify the means over the Avengers' humanism, ending with that absolutely shocking snap.
Devastating ending.
And Endgame is the response, the elegy, that first act. It's this unprecedented look at collective grief on a universal scale, the true cost of Thanos' win.
Then the time heist.
Which isn't just a plot device. It's a journey back.
Yeah.
It forces the original Avengers to literally confront their past selves, their mistakes, their losses.
And leads to these incredible character payoffs.
Deeply resonant conclusions. Thor confronts his depression, learns heroism is about resilience, not just winning. Black Widow gets this tragic, heroic redemption, sacrificing herself for the Soul Stone, the complete opposite of Thanos' act of murder.
So what does it all mean? It feels like the endings for Tony Stark and Steve Rogers are just perfect symmetry.
It really is breathtakingly elegant, isn't it?
Tony starts as this selfish narcissist, right? And ends with the ultimate selfless act, giving his life, I am Iron Man.
Full circle. And Steve, the ultimate soldier, always putting duty first, a man out of time.
Yeah.
He finally makes a choice for himself, goes back, lives that life he lost.
Gets his dance.
Gets his dance. It's beautiful. And it raises that question. How do their opposing views from Civil War come together here? It suggests that maybe both were needed. Tony's pragmatism, his willingness to sacrifice himself in the end. Steve's idealism, his unwavering moral compass. They weren't mutually exclusive. They were both essential parts of the human experience, needed to save everything.
Wow.
And Alan Silvestri's score just ties it all together. The iconic Avengers theme, the mournful Thanos theme, that tender family theme in Endgame. Masterful.
So the impact of all this. Phase 3 especially, it created the MCU effect, right? The whole industry tried to copy it.
Yeah, that rush to build shared universes. Warner Bros., DC, Universal with their monsters.
Often unsuccessfully.
Often, yeah, because they missed the key ingredient.
Yeah.
That decade of patient character work Marvel did. You can't just force interconnected IP.
And the financial side, the dominance.
Profoundly impactful, maybe controversial. Those consistent billion-dollar hits, they raised the stakes for everyone. Hollywood pivoted even harder towards these huge IP-driven event films.
Squeezing out mid-budget movies, maybe.
That's the argument.
Yeah.
That it potentially made the landscape less diverse, more homogenous.
Right.
But culturally, it undeniably made nerd culture completely mainstream. Characters only comic fans knew became global icons.
And that level of success inevitably brings scrutiny. You mentioned the Scorsese theme park comment. There are other critiques too, right? Like from a Marxist perspective?
Yeah, focusing on class and economics. That view might say the MCU reinforces capitalist ideology. You know, Tony Stark, the billionaire hero whose tech saves the day. Working class villains like Vulture, sympathetic maybe, but ultimately needing to be put back in their place.
Restoring the status quo.
Right. The conflicts often end by putting a slightly broken world back together, rather than fundamentally changing it. That's a valid lens to look through.
But at the same time.
At the same time, you have this undeniable shift in representation during Phase 3. A huge departure from the mostly white male heroes of Phase 1.
Black Panther, Captain Marvel.
Game changers, commercially and culturally. They shattered those old, tired Hollywood myths about who could lead a blockbuster. That wasn't just idealism. It reflected the global audience. Kevin Feige's saying, Marvel is the world outside your window.
So it's complex.
Very. It's like this reflection of 21st century corporate liberalism. A belief in the system, but also a commitment to making that system more inclusive.
So wrapping this up, Phase 3, those 11 films, it feels like a really singular moment in pop culture history.
A truly unique achievement. Over just 4 years, they managed this incredible blend of massive commercial appeal and genuinely resonant character-focused storytelling.
Starting with that split between heroes.
And ending with the shared experience of loss, sacrifice, and ultimately hope. It really did become a kind of modern mythology for millions. And connecting it back to cinema history. Yeah, the dominance raises fair questions about what gets crowded out. And we've seen post-Endgame, it's hard to recapture that specific lightning in a bottle.
It's a tough act to follow.
For sure. But just calling it a theme park misses so much. The intricate plotting, the different director visions, the real emotional depth.
It wasn't just spectacle.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It was a moment that proved blockbusters could be both hugely profitable and artistically ambitious. It secured its place as more than just a franchise, but a defining saga.
So, thinking about all that, here's something for you, the listener, to chew on. Looking ahead, what stories, what character arcs from any genre, any medium do you think will resonate decades from now, the way Marvel's Phase 3 has for this generation? What elements, character growth, thematic depth, cultural impact will make them endure?